Hello, my name is Precious Vines and I am the blogger for The Single Maven. Today's blog post is entitled Excellence in Motion. But before we get started, I wanted to make a quick announcement. I would like to announce the upcoming webinar, I Believe I Can Fly, Conquering the Battle with Performance. Now this webinar will be hosted on August the 30th, which is this Wednesday at 7 p.m. So I encourage you to check out the information on my website, and I will also post it in this blog post as well. The address for my website is www.thesweetesttransition.com. So share it with your network, and I will see you all on Wednesday at 7 p.m. So get into this blog, Excellence in Motion. I titled this blog post Excellence in Motion because I wanted to look at the fact that each of us should continue to move towards discovering the best quality of life possible. And the motivation for this blog post derived from my observation of a lack of self-care that I had exhibited in my life in the past. So I was not exhibiting excellence when I made choices that were less than optimal for my well-being. And I wanted to share with you a story of how this was demonstrated in my life. And basically, it came from a journal that I discovered from about 10 years ago. And now in the journal, I chronicled the thoughts about my life as well as my weight loss journey. So I was in the process of trying to lose weight at the time. But what I found in my actions were the complete opposite of my goals at that specific time. So I would actually have journal entries that gave me, my goals and things that I was working towards. But then my actions were the complete opposite of what I wanted to accomplish. So when I read my journal entries, I saw that I had spiraled down a path of avoidance as well as performance-based thinking. And I made the choice to put other goals in my life ahead of my own personal health. Now, this really included me pursuing a degree. I love school. Also pursuing another business opportunity as well as several job prospects. And this is all within the same time frame of having a goal of trying to, lose weight and become healthier. But I paid the cost of all of these goals, focusing on all of these goals with continued weight gain. So basically, my pursuit of all of these other areas of my life cost me my health and well-being. But the health and well-being improvement was one of my goals. And I did realize that I had the potential to change, because I think a lot of times we think that things may be impossible. And I realized that there was a potential there, but I chose the route of least resistance. And sometimes that route of least resistance is enabled by how we think about ourselves or how we view ourselves. And I have shared with you all before that in my manner of thinking or looking at myself from the aspect of only the professional lens, I don't think about the personal areas of my life as much as I should. So me looking at myself from a professional or academic person was leading my thinking in how I pursued my goals and what the result was. So overall, I made choices that were less than optimal for my growth and overall well-being, because I think a lot of times we look at the lens of, specific areas of our lives. So it may be if you have a family or if you're married, you may look at it through the lens of, being a spouse or partner or a mother or father, but you may not look at it through the lens of you as an individual. What needs do you have as a person? And there are many areas of your individual life that need attention as well as the other roles that you play. So when I read my journal entries, I didn't recognize myself. It was one of those things where you kind of go back in time, and this is, 10 years ago. So I was younger, but I think the way I looked at myself was through the eyes of someone that was a bad imitation of me. Like that wasn't me that actually wrote that journal, and it was. And I was really saddened by the fact that this was my mentality, because I have shared in some other blog posts the fact of, how I actually go about thinking about things and pursuing things. But to the extent of this affecting my overall health, and seeing also in my journal the log of how my weight was actually going up in spite of my goal to lose weight, shocked me, because I was actually defeating myself by pursuing other goals. And that may not really make sense, and some of you all may have experienced, it may make perfect sense for some people, but you can defeat yourself in some areas of your life if you pursue certain goals over other goals, which means technically you're going backwards in some areas of your life instead of forward. And I think also one thing that I saw is if you look at yourself holistically, as a total person, which a lot of times, we kind of slack on doing, we can't negate the fact that we may have, a role as a spouse or a parent, but we also have a role to be the best steward that we are or we can be over our bodies, over our temples, over our mind, our spiritual, social health, all of those things. So you can't, negate one area of your life or two areas of your life to pursue, these specific goals, even though they are important. And I'm not negating that, but you want to make sure that you're alive and healthy to be able to tackle all the areas of your life. And I think that's where I found myself when I went back and kind of looked through those journal entries, is the fact that I was not proactive at all in looking at myself as a whole person versus just looking at fragments of myself. So that's one thing that I would encourage you to do, is not to fragment yourself to the point of defeat in other areas of your life. So when I made the choice to ignore my body and overall health and well-being, I let the potential of a better version of myself lie dormant. So that's what you're doing as well. You're being defeated in some areas of your life, but the potential that you have in that specific area is lying dormant. And I admit to procrastinating on pursuing my goal of weight loss and better health at that time of my life. So you do have to own where you are and the decisions that you're making, because if you're not able to be transparent with yourself and to say that, yes, I have slacked in this area, I have not been the best steward over my resources, whether it be your finances or your physical health, or it could be your relationship with your significant other, or even your kids or just your job, any of those areas. You have to be able to be transparent and say, yes, I have procrastinated in this area. But where I found myself is asking a lot of questions. So one question that I had was, why was I stopping short of maximizing my potential in that area of my life? Because there's a catalyst for everything. Like, things don't just happen in your life and you wake up one day and it's like, oh my gosh, I gained like 100 pounds. Well, there's a catalyst for it, and it was a continued cycle of repeated behavior that led you to that point. And I had to look at myself and say, why was I stopping short of maximizing my potential in that particular area? But I was maximizing my potential or overly, scheduling and committing myself in other areas. But in this area, I was less below average, non-existent. So why did I stop trying as well? I think that there are areas that a lot of times you stop trying in, and you kind of have to look at your life and say, where am I stopping to even try in this specific area? Because it looks differently for a lot of us. But if we're truthful with ourselves, there are some areas that we stop trying and we kind of push it to the side, and we don't bring it to the light to try to do something to improve ourselves in that area. The next question I have is, why do I settle for less than what I could have? So I settled in that area of my life, and it was less than what I could have. And why was I ignoring my value and worth? That's another question as well. Why was I ignoring my value and worth? So I think that in all circumstances, whatever area that you have in your life that you may have a less than optimal experience in, and you want to see some growth and improvement, you have to kind of stop and look at those questions. So I want to look at two main points that I derived from thinking about this particular situation, and it may help you as well. The first point is to always aim for the best possible version of yourself. Always aim for the best possible version of yourself. So when you aim for the best possible version of yourself, you make healthy choices that support the best version of you. You're going to make healthy choices that support the best version of you. So it's also important to remember that those healthy choices are necessary in all areas of your life. So you may not necessarily make a big healthy choice over here, meaning you totally reroute everything that you have in your kitchen cabinets and, buy all, health foods. but you may start modifying certain meals of the day, meaning you may have a smoothie for breakfast versus, fast food. But you're making a healthy choice in that area in addition to other areas. You need to regularly take an account of your life and observe the areas where you're making excuses and procrastinating. So you're going to have to take an account of where you are in your life. And I encourage you to do this, after this blog post or later on this week, is to look at major areas of your life. Now, it could be your physical health, your mental health, your spiritual health. For me, socially, I think I've shared that as well. Your social health, meaning your social network, or even emotional health. What area of your life are you procrastinating in and making excuses? And looking back, I have to admit that I was not making the choice to aim for the best version of myself. And when I looked at pictures of myself during that time as well, I saw the consequences of the choices that I made. And I have to admit that I chose to use a lower standard of self-care. So I wasn't using the best standard of self-care that I could for myself. And this in turn was a reflection of how I was not valuing myself. So if you're actually negating working in specific areas of your life, you're not valuing yourself properly in that specific area. So some questions that I have that I should have asked myself at that time if I was actually practicing mindfulness, which is very important for this, is how do I value myself and my self-worth? I should have asked myself that question, because if I'm making these choices that are less than optimal, then that says a lot about how I see myself and my self-esteem and self-worth. Am I making healthy choices? Because sometimes we think, oh yes, I'm going to the gym, but you just consume 3,000 calories and you're going to walk on a treadmill for 20 minutes. That's not a great equivalent, and it's not the best or healthiest choice. Now, do my choices support the best possible version of how I could look and feel? And that's, in reference to my health. Was I making choices that supported the best possible version of how I could look and feel? And am I aiming for the best possible version of myself in the choices that I'm making? So looking at those questions, now I specifically modified those because I was talking about my physical health, but you can look at that overall in any area. So ask yourself if this is the best possible version of yourself in that specific area where deep down you're not trying as hard as you should. I also want to look at the second point, which is never stop the process of continual growth. Now, each of us should travel on the path of excellence. We always want to strive for or aim for, excellence in motion. So traveling on the path of excellence means that we never stop the process of continual growth. This requires that you make it a habit of pursuing excellence in motion. So you're going to make a habit of looking at yourself and seeing, whether you're making choices that support growth, and if it's excellence in motion or if you're just stagnant. This means that you earnestly choose to take steps each day towards continued growth, change, and transformation. And sometimes that step could be you just affirming that you're going to commit yourself to specific goals for that week, or just affirming who you are in that area. So you may have, a huge amount of debt, but you could affirm to yourself that I am becoming a better steward and manager of my money and resources. So that would be, a step that you could take specifically throughout the week or even just during the day to get your mind retrained to the fact that this is going to be an area that's going to be changed, and I'm going to support myself by affirming myself. Continual growth requires that you make a commitment to yourself and you honor that commitment. So you have to make that commitment, but honor that commitment because you're honoring and valuing yourself. Now, had I chose a path of excellence, I would have made a commitment to myself to start shedding the excess weight that I carry, and even affirming the fact that I could take small steps to do so. And I have since learned the importance of making better choices. And I believe, of course, this is, a lifestyle change, and it's a life learning lesson for me because, weight loss or weight gain has been something that I've had an ongoing, issue with, for lack of a better term, in my life. But I have to recognize the fact that making better choices makes me a healthier person. And I choose to commit to a process of transformation because I recognize that I'm valuable. And I think that was one of the key steps, is the fact that I recognize that I'm valuable. Now, will I be able to, be a size 2 in my life. I don't know. That's not necessarily one of my goals. But my goal is to recognize my value, my worth, and to make healthier choices. And in doing that, yes, my weight probably will, decrease if I have gained some, or I'll become healthier overall by maybe toning myself. But I think that overall, investing in myself and making that investment supports my health and well-being, and it's a true reflection of transformation. So you don't have to hit that high mark that some people may have and compare yourself to other people, but you can make an investment in your health and well-being and have it be a true reflection of transformation within your life. So I want to leave you with some concluding thoughts. You may wonder and wait, ponder and pause, but never act on the necessity of now. There are parts of your life that are silently crying out for recognition and action. If those areas of your life could speak to you right now, what would they say? And the most important question of all is, what would be your response? So, I urge you to take time to journal the answers to those questions, and feel free to post your comments in the blog as well. And let me know what action steps you're going to take to be excellence in motion. Thank you so much for tuning in to The Single Maven.